Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 6 of Guitars and Cars. I am Matt in Nova Scotia, and this is my friend Jay in Mississauga. And today we're going to talk about a few different topics. The first for our guitars topic, I'm just going to talk about a specific band, actually. For Gear Corner, I'm going to be talking about Projectors, and it does connect to music in a couple ways. And I've been putting that one off, so we'll finally get that over with. And then for the car topic, we're going to talk about the Chinese automaker BYD and what has kind of changed in the past few months in Canada in terms of those electric cars. So
Right.
I want to start by asking you, Jay, have you heard of the band Angine de Poitrine?
I have not.
Okay, so 2 months ago, this video popped up on my YouTube feed, and it was the KEXP, I think is the name of the station and the kind of YouTube channel, and it was a live performance of this band. And since then, it has made the rounds so much that it's now mainstream, where I have friends who aren't even particularly into weird music or anything asking me if I have heard of these guys.
Cool.
And so the video starts with them walking out. The set is dressed in black and white polka dots. They are wearing the most ridiculous costumes with these giant noses, and like their heads are bigger than they are, and there's little slits where they're looking through. The guy who's playing guitar is playing a double neck bass and guitar.
Okay.
And he's operating this massive pedal board with his bare feet, with painted white skin with black dots. As soon as they walked out, I said, I think these guys are Quebecois. It was like Rock du Soleil, and I was right. I mean, it said the band name, but I'm like, they're not from France. They're not. This is Quebecois performance art. Their name is Angine de Poitrine, and they are Quebecois, instrumental microtonal math rock. So first of all, the instrumental part, there are some vocals, but they're more used as an instrument. You can't really make out anything that they're saying. It's just kind of weird noises. So that part's really funny. Microtonal. So when you watch the video, you got to look at the guitar and the bass, because it basically is twice as many frets as a normal, quote unquote, normal guitar.
So we're going like frets in the 40s?
I don't know. I'd have to count. So basically, our kind of Western scale, if you go from E to F, there's no note in between that. That is a semitone.
Yeah.
So the next kind of key on the keyboard, if you're playing the piano, but on this guitar, there would be a note in between E and F.
So hold on. Matt and I are the same age-ish, and we haven't talked about this before, and I'm really hoping that you're a Simpsons fan and I can drop in my B sharps joke.
Yes. So this would be B and then B half sharp and then B sharp or C. So, and of course, this is normal in lots of other cultures. And like, you listen to a sitar. This is not like, none of this is new stuff. But I think that when it all comes together, it is something that we haven't really heard a lot of. So that's the microtonal bit. Now, they still are using kind of typical harmonies once he starts looping and layering. You'll get some thirds and fifths and like all of that. But throughout, it is absolutely microtonal, and you just cannot, I've watched some videos of people listening and like playing along, and they're like, no, I can't even do it. Like, you'd have to just bend up and down so much on a regular guitar.
I guess that's quarter bends.
Yeah, it would be a quarter bend up or a quarter bend down.
Like, and that's a lot of precision. Like, if you're using a traditional, like you said, Western guitar, wow.
Yeah. And there's no way, like, you just couldn't. So there's that aspect. And then of course, math rock. So they're not just playing everything in 4/4. It's all over the place. And in fact, there's some things where I'm like trying to count it, and then like the drums come in and it's not what you thought it was. So you combine all of that, and it's kind of like Primus meets Tool. Is where it's kind of at, without the obviously Maynard James Keenan's awesome vocals. So obviously, like Primus has been around forever, microtonal music's been around forever,
Mhm.
instrumental's been around forever, math rock has been around for a long time. But you put all this together, you add these costumes, and then also the looping that he's doing. So when you listen back, if you didn't watch the performance, you would just think everything is someone else playing on top of it, but it's one guy doing all of it, even calling up the vocals, playing back those loops. He's
Cool.
often got like 5 loops going. So he's got the big boss, like the red, I forget what it is, the RC
Yeah.
something. And so he has all these different loops happening. So just that aspect of the performance, then on top of the microtonal and all of that, it's wild.
And sorry, this found you,
It did,
right?
which is wild because it had not made the rounds yet at that point. It just came up on my YouTube like 2 months ago, right after it was released. And then literally the next week, I see it on a bunch of other YouTube channels. And because I follow a lot of folks who will like listen to something live and react to it and play
Mm,
along and like figure it out and talk about it. So that started to happen. Then, of course, it finally hit Rick Beato's channel and he talked about it. And
yeah.
then Justin Hawkins has made 2 videos about it.
Ah, the darkness.
Um, yeah, and I love his stuff, and he loved it too, and he said he was gonna go see them when they come play over in Europe. I can't remember exactly where they're
Cool.
playing. They're playing a handful of shows, and then I just saw that in an interview, Dave Grohl was talking about this. He was asked, "Is there any new music you're listening to?" And he talked about them. So it's
Wow.
completely crossed the threshold into the mainstream, which is wild because when you listen to it, like my friend who I was talking to about it, he's like, "It's cool." But I'm not going to listen to it. Um, you can
Weird.
respect what's happening, but it's not going to be something that everyone is going to want to crank in the car or
Uh,
whatever. Now, I do have 2 of the tunes on my running workout playlist, and I
okay.
have listened to it. Like, I love it. And it's just different. And I think for me, it's like for a while there, like just a few years before COVID and then through COVID, a lot of music, especially that was popular, was like this mid-tempo stuff that maybe didn't even have a
Mhm.
lot of dynamics or change. It was kind of like the Drake effect, right?
Yeah.
It's like I can respect and enjoy some of that for sure because I like all music. But at some point I was like, I just want a rock band or I just want something that has lots of dynamics or
Yeah.
whatever. And I have found that in the past few years, rock is back. It's
Same.
different, it's new, some of it's the same, sometimes they're just people who sound like Blink-182, and that's freaking awesome,
And that's great and
but
funny because for the longest time, it was almost everything excluding, I guess, what we call rock and roll. And whether you're a child of the 90s or whatever, but like there was no true essence or sense of rock. But the last couple of years, like it's come back. And like you said, no one's reinventing the wheel, right? We're all putting a fancy set of rims on it and different types of tires. And you're bound to have something that, oh, hey, that sounds like you said, like 182, 82, or ACDC or 80s glam rock or whatever it is. But I'm happy it's back. As someone who was born in 1978 and grew up through like the golden years of, not quite golden years, the silver years of rock and roll, I love it so much.
me too, and it's crazy when I think about the past few years too that I've gone to see a bunch of '90s bands,
They're
that are
back.
still touring, like I saw Collective Soul and Bush and Our Lady Peace and Matthew Good. I just went to see live. It was not a good show, but I saw them. Uh,
I've heard bad things about Live's live show. Live's live show. Yeah,
yeah,
that's right.
it
Live's
was
live show.
just let's just say Big Rec opened and they were absolutely phenomenal. And after the show, I was like, I just wish Big Rec played 2 shows.
If we can get Ian Thornley on here somehow,
Yeah.
like he is to me the most underrated guitar player and singer. Um, the closest I could compare him to for anyone is Chris Cornell as far as vocal range and strength. But that's a completely separate episode. But I've seen Big Rec and just a delight, and I would feel the same way. Can you just like do your entire set backwards, Ian Thornley, Police and Banks, and call it a
It
show?
was It was wild because it was just such a difference. Like you said, you have a Chris Cornell-esque level vocalist who is also one of the best guitar players I've ever seen,
Right?
with a band that is at least partially still some of the same folks that he's been playing music with for a long time. And then live was, you've got the live guy and then hired guns.
Oh,
And the bass player was hilarious, but he did not fit the scene at all. He looked like he was in like a death metal band. He was just like running around the stage. The guitar player seemed like, I don't think he smiled once. And then he played lap steel and I wanted to like plug my ears. It was so horrible.
on what
And the drummer was
song?
just okay. So what's that?
What was the lap steel song from live?
I forget. It's not on the song. They just decided to do it that way, and it would have been kind of beautiful if it wasn't so terrible. Anyway,
Words to live by.
Yeah.
I hope no girl says that about me.
So been seeing lots of 90s bands, and then there's some great rock bands that are still active. I got tickets to go see the Arkells when they play here at the Shore Club. That's going to be killer. And then like my partner and I got tickets to the Chicks concert.
Cool.
And Blue Rodeo is one of the openers. So
good old Jim.
I think it's a good time for rock and roll again. And some of it's kind of the same, like the Sheepdogs are just making 70s rock over and over again. And it's super fun.
Let them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then you have the Arkells who are kind of taking that and upping it to, a little bit more upbeat and more pop rocky stuff. And then you have the complete opposite side of the spectrum with these guys from Quebec who are just kind of throwing this performance art piece out there and people are digging it, which is really cool. I mean, this is the kind of band that I feel you would have seen around in like the 90s. You've had... That's when, Godspeed You Black Emperor and folks were making this crazy instrumental music that was definitely not mainstream. So I feel like that is in the DNA of Canadian rock music. And then even when you think about some of our biggest rock bands, they were never super straightforward. Like Our Lady of Peace was very unique, especially the first couple records, especially his vocals. I Mother Earth is just kind of out to lunch. The Tea Party is weird. We've always had this little tinge of weird, which is a really cool export, I think.
For sure. And like, I hadn't even thought I like all the bands that you mentioned, but I think it was the commercial side that was released on all of the popular radio stations. But like I've done big dives into all the Tea Party albums, and Jeremy Taggart from Our Lady of Peace, no longer there, but things he did, like it's there, but I think you have to open your eyes a little wider to see it. But once you do, it's just, oh, you're like a 21-year-old little prodigy. Look at you go.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to play you the first track on the Volume 2, because they have a Volume 1 and Volume 2 EPs or albums. Here we go. You hear that? I think this is the only time I've ever heard a ring modulator actually used on a record. It's like the setting on the guitar pedal, you're like, ooh. So now he's playing the bass and he's looped that guitar part. Can you count it?
4, 3. Nope.
And now he's looping another guitar part. The bass is looping.
That's a little better. No, it's not. I want to tap my foot, but I can't.
I feel like this loop is on an amp.
It's something.
And now now we're like 4 on the floor.
Yeah. Oh.
Anyway, this is the stuff. So that is Angine de Poitrine. You got to go watch the video.
Yeah,
Super
for
fun.
sure.
Super
For
fun.
sure.
And like watching it just makes me appreciate it so much more to see these guys so in sync. And then to watch him tap dancing and doing all the looping and pedals and stuff is really cool. So
okay, I got things to do this afternoon, and now I got a soundtrack for it.
that's awesome. All right, it is time for Gear Corner.
Gear Corner.
Okay, so our bedroom is a bit of a weird setup because it's kind of an open concept situation because we have 2 small bedrooms for the kids. So basically our living room is kind of the bedroom. And what that meant is that we can't have a TV in there because at the foot of the bed, a few feet in front of it, is like the door to the bathroom. And it's like a pocket door.
Right.
So there's nowhere to put a TV. And we don't really have a living room. We have a TV, but it's in like the open concept kitchen area. And so we would end up just laying there with an iPad propped up on like someone's stomach or like eventually like a little stand. And, you know, I'm like, we have the technology. What am I doing?
There's a better way.
So I started looking into projectors because I thought if I can hang a screen at the foot of the bed, this will be epic.
Right.
So I started out with this guy. So this is
Okay.
the HY300 Ultra, and you'll see it made by a bunch of different people because it's just one of those products that a bunch of people slap their logo on. You can find on Amazon, AliExpress, Temu, all of those kind of sites.
Right.
And I think it was $50 when I bought it, maybe that.
Wow.
It was kind of like I got have proof of concept before I put any real money into this.
Yeah.
So I got that and like just a sheet screen, and turned it on and was like, okay, this is awesome. This is going to work. But first of all, if you just have a sheet screen, most of the light just goes through. So it was like
that.
lighting up the wall and the bathroom door. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we're losing so much of the brightness, right? So I was like, okay, this is going to work. I'm going to buy a real screen. So I got a real screen, like a pull down one, like in a conference space or something. And immediately 100% better in terms of keeping that light there and brightness. However, then you could easily notice, okay, well, this says it takes a 4K signal, but it's barely outputting 720p. The color accuracy is basically nil. And you absolutely have to have all the lights off, all the curtains drawn to be able to watch anything.
So like near darkness.
Yeah. And so, and this whole category of portable projectors is fairly new because when you think about projectors, you think of those square things that sit on a conference table or are attached to the ceiling.
Yeah.
These guys can go anywhere. So it is really cool because it's just, you know, you've got your HDMI.
Yeah.
It can be powered by USB, I think, if you have the little adapter, but it's got a little DC plug. And then it has apps built in, so you don't need to plug anything into it. You can access most of the streaming apps from that, and it's got a little speaker. So for a kid's room, you can stick it anywhere, put it up on the ceiling, put it on the wall.
Nice.
It's great. As far as someone who actually enjoys good quality anything, no. So started down the rabbit hole, which I've been down a lot of rabbit holes. The projector one was weird because I thought I would be seeing Sony and LG and Samsung, but none of those big companies make the best projectors. It's weird. Some of them make some, but when you start watching all of the reviews and looking and reading, there's no Sony projector that people are like, this is the best projector for you to get. and there are some brands that I'd never even heard of, and they're like the tops. So I ended up narrowing it down, and the company that stood out for me was HiSense, which is weird because I associate them with crappy TVs at the end of like the aisle at the grocery store. You know,
Yeah. Same.
they made a lot of money just making cheapo TVs. I haven't kept up with the TV industry, and it turns out that Hisense actually makes some decent ones, and they have their own
Oh,
OS for a lot of their TVs, and it's actually decent.
interesting.
And they make some of the best projectors. And actually, the one that was consistently almost every time, like this is the number one portable projector, was their C2 Ultra or something. But it was
Okay.
$3,000, so that wasn't gonna happen.
No.
What I ended up with is this bad
Oh.
boy.
Oh, okay. That's a little bigger than,
Little bigger than the HY300.
okay. And you got a price tag on that for us?
14.
Okay. And,
So about the same as getting a not great TV. You know, like you've
right?
got if we're looking at the size that this can do, I have it on 100 and something inch screen.
Yeah.
Even at a 65 inch, if you only spend $1,400, you're not going to get the best TV. Um, now, why portable? Because they still do make those, rectangular ones that
Yep.
aren't portable, but a lot of those are not super adjustable. Like you have to be pretty straight on to the screen. And then obviously you can't take them anywhere. But the big issue for us is that this had to sit on a shelf that's above our bed. So I only
Right.
had so much depth.
Real estate. Yeah.
And this also has fans that go sideways, so it wasn't blowing into the wall. So,
Oh,
there was a
cool.
lot of considerations here. Um, but it's really cool that because I can just take this anywhere, and it already has its own operating system, so I don't need to bring any streaming boxes or anything, though I do use an Apple TV with it and an Xbox.
So
Um,
would you use this for your live shows? For
uh,
Rick and the
we
Tips?
Well, we we haven't talked about that because most of the time there isn't a place at a venue to put something like that. But it's
Okay.
absolutely in the back of my mind for a show where that would be possible. However, I did use it for a music video. So I was shooting music video and, she had some imagery of it
I
on the
saw that.
album of candles and fire and matches and all that kind of stuff. So I took my camera and I shot a candle burning and I shot some incense burning, and then I played it, and then I edited it so that it was kind of had like a red tinge because that was the color we were going for. And then I just projected this behind her on a wall, and
Wow.
that is what you see in the background of the video the whole time. And it worked out awesome.
Yeah, it did.
And it
I
was
got
bright enough that even during the day we could see it a little bit on the wall.
cool.
So it accepts 4K, and it is 4K. It's a triple laser. And so it's not a 4K sensor. I don't want to get into the weeds, but basically it kind of fakes 4K by combining the lasers. So if
Okay.
you go for a true 4K chip, you're doubling the price, right? So
Yeah.
that is one quote unquote downside, but um, y- you would never most
Yeah.
people would never be able to tell the difference. So
Yeah.
that's really cool. It has crazy auto adjustments. So you point it at a wall and it will within seconds just make it perfectly rectangular and focus it.
Wow.
And it will even avoid objects. If there's something on the wall, it will make it smaller, which is really
Oh.
wild. And
Oh,
it has
okay.
an auto shut off because it's laser, which is not the best for eyeballs. So as soon as something passes in front of it, it shuts down for 10 seconds and then comes back on, which is great
Oh,
for
cool.
children so that they don't stare into it.
Yes.
Unbelievably bright. Now there isn't really super accurate ratings for how bright this is, but in the aggregate, this new one is probably 6 to 7 times brighter than that guy,
Okay.
in addition to having way better contrast ratio, so it
Yeah.
seems even brighter and all of that. The black levels are just okay. And that
Mm.
was one of the downsides of this one. It was like it has way better color accuracy and it's really bright, but the black levels aren't quite as good as some other ones. But basically, I was like, nothing else in this price range matches all the rest of the stuff.
Yeah.
But it's crazy to have a $1,400 projector and be like, yeah, I could go for something better.
Right?
But it's got Dolby Vision and HDR and all that stuff. And it actually has a nice remote.
Oh, look at
I don't
that.
know if that's ever
Oh,
gonna
yeah,
yeah,
there
we
it
go.
is.
And it's backlit and it's like solid and it has heft to it. It just feels quality.
Oh, nice.
So that is the HiSense M2 Pro is what it's called.
Okay, noted.
And the C2 and C2 Ultra are above that. Maybe next time, but
Maybe next time.
fantastic. Totally replaces the TV, can go up to 150 inches. I've got it at, I think 100 is what my screen is. And so laying in bed and at the foot of the bed, just maybe 1 or 2 feet in front is this 100-inch screen. And it's like being at the theater. And then, so my son was super pumped about it. But then he came home one day and I had moved the Xbox over there. And he's like, wait a minute, you can plug the Xbox into that? And I'm like, yeah. And he was just like, ah.
Mind blown.
Yeah, eyes wide. It's been awesome. So huge
Oh, cool.
upgrade. We use it every night. And it's just, technology is so great these days. It automatically turns on when I turn on the Apple TV or the Xbox. It automatically shuts off when you shut them off. You can control it with an app. The future is pretty good when it comes to technology. And then I even have like a media server running on my NAS so I can stream to this. So it's pretty cool.
Nice.
So that is Gear Corner if you want to spend a lot of money and upgrade your home theater experience.
And somebody out there will.
Gear Corner.
Okay, our car topic today is electric cars in Canada, more specifically BYD. What can you tell me about this company, Jay?
I can tell you that I am excited for them to show up because the consumer wins. The logical side of me says you get what you pay for, and any car at $25,000, I don't care who makes it, is bound to come with its own set of complaints. Forget the fancy words. It's going to be slow and loud, and that 2-speaker audio system is going to be garbage. But if you need mobility and you're just out of school or you're downsizing to something, all for it. Now you put it's an EV, so the battery is going to be small. The range is going to be crap, but we just got our $5,000 rebate back. So that $25,000 bare bones car is now absurdly affordable, right? It's a monthly payment from when you and I first started buying cars. Yes, there are going to be higher models out there and bigger batteries and more range. Yesterday, they announced that, coming to the Greater Toronto area, and then they're going to follow the hockey route. So there'll be Vancouver and Montreal and Winnipeg and Calgary and Edmonton. So I think Toronto's a good place to launch it. Yes, we all know that Toronto thinks it's the center of Canada. It's not, but whatever. We have a lot of people and a lot of people who want to have an alternative to a gas car. And there's enough charging infrastructure right now to have us get by. And if you have an EV, you'll have a level 2 charging station at home. Like, that's just how it is. So I'm excited for them to show up. I'm curious as to which specific models they'll launch with. But the big hiccup, and I'm, I guess, speed bump now is you need to have a physical dealership for repairs and maintenance and this and that. And you don't really need a showroom, but it wouldn't hurt. And you got to do test drives. So excited for them to be here. I hope the consumer continues to win with this, but my goodness, if it's a matter of $5,000 to go from a BYD to an established OEM, then the $5,000 on whatever it is. I don't care if you want a sedan, an SUV, a crossover, a little tiny baby little car. What's your comfort level worth? Because it's one thing to go with a new manufacturer, but you get that peace of mind. And Hyundai has a massive global network. We can get replacement parts for cars that are 10 to 15 years old now. I don't know what's going to go wrong with the BYD. I don't think the wheels are going to come off, but I think it's going to have its pretty strong share of painful growth.
Hmm. So, just to go back on some details. So basically, this is a Canada-China deal.
Yeah,
And currently, they're not allowed to sell their cars here. They don't have any dealerships or whatever. So they're allowing it, and they're lessening the tariff.
I think it's 6.1% now,
Yeah,
down from
6.1%,
100.
which is nuts, which is crazy, crazy, crazy. So the quota, though, they can only sell 49,000 units in the first year. But that goes up every year. And by 2030, they can sell up to 70,000. Analysts are estimating in the first year they might only hit 10,000 by the time they get this all rolled out. But at the same time, with the low price, if they come in with those lower ones, I could see that number being higher, but we'll
Yeah,
see. The cars also have to be priced at $48,000 or less,
yeah,
which is really interesting. 20 dealerships are opening in the first year, and 3, as to your point, are in the GTA. And those will be the first ones. The demo units will be arriving while they're building these things out, and by mid-2026, so that's not too far away,
yeah,
there is supposed to be showrooms with demo units, but retail sales will not actually kick off until late in the year of 2026. So there's a
yeah,
lot of building, but at the same time, that is a fairly expedited situation to me. Like by the
yeah,
end of the year, having just announced this, that they're going to be selling them, I think is realistic. And maybe even faster than what might normally have happened.
for sure.
Now, they have to keep this tariff at 6% or 6.1 or whatever it is. They have to establish a local or local joint ventures for either vehicle or battery production within 3 years. So they have
Well,
to get these dealerships up and running, get some sales going, and at the same time, they've got to start working with local Canadian companies, factories, etc., to either make the cars here or make the batteries here.
now there's plenty of space to do that. There's the Ford plant in Oakville that's just been collecting dust for a few years. There is the recently abandoned Chrysler plant in Brampton that was supposed to be retooled for all EVs, but well, that's a completely separate episode. So there are places in place that would require, a dustpan and a broom and maybe a couple of wrenches to make it ready. But it's better than going from here's a big patch of dirt, spend 2 years getting approvals, 2 years building it. So I think that the manufacturing powerhouse that China is will absolutely hit these targets. It's not like a VinFast, for example. Like, let's see what's up. Let's try some stuff and continuously fail and somehow still be available for purchase. I think China is going to do wonderfully with the BYD. I think BYD is going to do extremely well with the early adopters. And there's a lot of them. People want that alternative propulsion and they don't want to spend a lot of money. And here's my bold take. I think BYD is going to take the route of the EV1, where it's lease only for the first little bits. In case things go sideways and they have to pull out in 3, 4, 5 years. And there's no support system. So they just go, all right, give us our stuff back and yeah, we'll see you later on something. So that's my bold prediction. Lease only for the first batch.
Interesting. Okay, we'll
Mm.
see about that. I think there's a lot of politics that we can talk about here. There's lots of folks who are saying this is bad for Canada. It's bad for our auto industry. I can absolutely see where they're coming from, and I don't know what's going to happen, but I do think that the devil's in the details here, where there's a reason why it's capped at 48,000. Because I think the government is saying, "Hey, EV makers, you're making them all really expensive. You're coming in with your top end models, and we need to get that price down because this is the economy that we have, and if we want to move to electric, we got to figure out a way to get that price down so that the average Canadian can afford a good EV, not just folks who have a little bit of extra money. Particularly because some of these rebates and some of these programs come and go. We
Yeah.
can't always count on them. And when you cancel something like that, or do something like Nova Scotia just did, where now you have to pay basically twice as much as a gas car for your registration,
Yeah.
because they're saying, oh, they're heavier because of the batteries, so there's more wear and tear on the roads. And I'm like, how are we ever, ever, ever going to get to an electric future if we don't have the infrastructure? And now you're not only not giving rebates, you're charging people
You
more
do
to own them.
you do the opposite. Like,
So this, I think, will help with that. And my hope is that, okay, all of like some of the companies who make cars in Canada look at it and go, okay, now our new target is 30K Canadian. And now we've seen that there is an appetite for a lower end model with 2 speakers and whatever. Let's do that. And that is my hope, that this just kind of kickstarts things in Canada, and options are always better for the consumer. It's unfortunate that it has to be a Chinese company coming in and doing that.
as opposed to a Canadian one, but
But at this point, something kind of has to give and kickstart that industry that's going to be better for Canada in the end. Because the other thing is, you just said those factories are just sitting there. So you
right?
can say that this is going to be bad for the auto industry, but I think the proof will be in the pudding that if BYD comes here and opens a factory or takes one of those, it's already a net good
Yeah, because there's
in
jobs.
terms of jobs.
Yeah,
Now, obviously there's way more to it, but these are going to be dealerships in Canada, so there will be jobs there. And I think also signs are pointing to, you got to make Canadians earn, give Canadians jobs here in Canada if you want
yeah,
to keep selling here. And I
yeah,
think they'll pull the plug if that's not happening.
yeah. And I think they'll make every effort to do that. And I realize Canada is not as big of a market as the States or many other countries out there, but we're still a pretty decently sized market, and there is an appetite for electric vehicles. So I hope they do well, and I hope they manage to take at least one of the factories and just do something with it.
Not only are we a decent sized market, we are a driving country. you
Oh
know,
my goodness. Like,
uh,
are
you
we
know,
ever?
the trains still have never been built. We'll see what happens with the high speed one.
I know,
Public
Mark.
transit
Yeah. Mm,
in a lot of places isn't great. Like, we drive a lot, so we might be a small market, but we have a very high percentage of car owners and drivers, and not just 10 kilometers to work either. Like, a lot of people are putting a lot of kilometers on. So sorry, what are you saying about the trains?
I think Mark Carney just doubled down. It's like, all right, we're going to make this train stuff work. And I think that was yesterday or today or something. But as much as I love driving in road trips, um, cutting my Toronto to Quebec City or Toronto to Montreal drive time in half, sign me up twice. Like,
Yeah,
that is just
it's
phenomenal.
there's only wins there.
Yeah,
And obviously commuters and all that, getting goods back and forth. But the big thing there to me is tourism, because a lot of
huge.
people are like, okay, I'm going to Quebec City, but that's it.
Because
Because
that's all I can
getting
do.
anywhere else is going to take a lot of money or a lot of time. And if you can jump on that train and get to Toronto, even just going to Montreal and Quebec City, it would be awesome. But let
Right?
alone you can get to Toronto. And I think Ottawa is on that route
Yeah.
as well. So I think it would be game changing. I don't know how much it will kind of come to the rest of the country, but that corridor is a no brainer for sure.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Okay, so we've talked about Quebecois instrumental microtonal math rock.
Hmm.
We have talked about projectors, portable projectors, which can completely change your home theater experience, and BYD coming to Canada.
Sounds like a pretty solid wrap up for episode 6.
All right, thanks for listening or watching. Please subscribe, like, do all the things, and we'll see you next time.